I just got done reading The Tenebrous Way by Matthew Stover. It's a short story and it's about as long as the average chapter for a novel. Since I will be talking about spoilers, I'll link below some audiobook versions of the story. One by the Archivist Publishing, which is basically an unabridged version of the short. And then also Everest Productions' own version, their own adaptation. It's about 10 minutes long. Check that out as well. And I've been told that you should read this before reading the Plagueis novel, or reading this and then reading the Plagueis novel again is a good way to experience the story. So I'll also leave a link to Bunt's books in the description. They have a bunch of Star Wars audiobooks, including Darth Plagueis and The Tenebrous Way, so check their channel out as well. And since The Tenebrous Way is about as long as a single chapter, I will be doing a reading of the story for my channel as well. Matthew Stover also wrote the novelization for Revenge of the Sith, which I am listening to the audiobook for currently, and it's been pretty good so far, and I think he's done just as good of a job with The Tenebrous Way. We get to see what Tenebrous thinks of Plagueis. He calls him foolish and pathetic, unable to comprehend his own limitations. He sees Plagueis as less than a beast, the way Plagueis fears the mere concept of death. And we also hear about what Tenebrous thinks of the Bainite Sith, the rule of two. He thinks about the one Sith, a single Sith Lord so powerful they don't need an apprentice, they don't fear the Jedi, one Sith to rule forever. But he also comes to the conclusion that he's not going to be that Sith Lord. And he's experiencing all of this, he's thinking all these things as he's dying because he's existing apart from his body in the Force because of his manipulations of midichlorians. Tenebrous has created a retrovirus which he calls maxichlorians, in an attempt to not completely disappear after his death. His midichlorians will go away, but he wants some version of his consciousness to stay around. That's what he has turned these maxichlorians into, that's their purpose. And he has sacrificed his ability to see into the future to create these maxichlorians. Because according to him, he doesn't need that ability anymore. And the reason he has done this, to extend his existence in the Force after his death, is to eventually possess Anakin. He doesn't know it's Anakin, but he knows of a chosen one that will be born in the Force in some aspect. That's the person he wants to possess. So these maxichlorians that hold Tenebrous' consciousness go into Plagueis' body. But because of the way the maxichlorians were created, they affect Plagueis' ability to see the future. Tenebrous sees that Plagueis will die at the hands of Palpatine before Tenebrous has a chance to take control of the Chosen One, of Anakin. So Tenebrous achieves his goal with these maxichlorians, but in his hubris, thinking he doesn't need this foresight ability, he's now caused Plagueis to lose that, so Plagueis is not going to be able to see his own death coming. So Tenebrous has also caused his own failure, and there's nothing he can do about it. And he doesn't necessarily see Palpatine, he sees him as a smear of darkness, a shadow. Everything Tenebrous has done has caused his death and afterlife to be pretty horrific. Midichlorians fade, maxichlorians might fade, but he does not know when that will happen. And his consciousness is connected to these maxichlorians. They are basically his consciousness in the Force. He realizes that he's been at the site of his death for possibly decades, thousands of years. We don't really know. He could still be there in the time of the Legacy comics. Who knows how long these maxichlorians will last? And since it starts and ends with the same lines, I think this is implying that he's basically in a time loop or a death loop, re-experiencing this moment over and over again. And he speculates that the retrovirus has altered his future sight, his foresight abilities, to cause him to experience this over and over again, basically like a personal hell. To me, the Sith represent evil. They are the personification of darkness, and this is a fitting end for someone like Tenebrous. His hubris, his lust for power and everlasting life has caused him to live an existence so horrific. One of his last lines is, "Then he knew, and at that moment he wished he still had a mouth because he really, really needed to scream." And for a Sith who has definitely caused an extreme amount of suffering for innocent people, this is what he deserves. And I think it's really fitting that his version of everlasting life could potentially be him reliving this whole experience over and over again, thinking he's achieved his goals, or to see it's come to nothing but endless suffering for him. Matthew Stover has done an excellent job expanding on the character of Tenebrous, getting to see his perspective on the Force, on Plagueis, see what kind of person he is in such a short amount of time, just a couple pages. Really incredible stuff. And while it doesn't totally change how I see Plagueis, I do like a different perspective on him because in the Plagueis novel, he's clearly powerful, he's clearly pretty intelligent, but through this we see how he might have certain flaws and shortcomings that are exploited by someone like Palpatine, but we also see that because of what Tenebrous has done, it's affected Plagueis' ability to see into the future. I do think the way Tenebrous sees Plagueis is correct in the sense that he fears death and he's kind of ignorant to his own flaws. However, I do think he does underestimate him, which is something he even acknowledges a little bit. This was a pretty short video, though I am covering a story that is also pretty short, but I definitely recommend checking out this story in whatever version you can find through the links that I have in the description, or if you can find your own version to read, try that out. It's worth it. Matthew Stover, great writer, great work on Star Wars as always. Thank you guys for watching, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys later.